So today we're going to sing. Did I mention that we have to sing? No. Salutations to Sage Ribhu. And we said last week, and I think it would be really nice if we, like, you say one and then I'll say one and then you say one and then I say one. We go through it like that. Would you like to do it like that?
Perfect. It feels like a dance, and we've sort of
Yeah,
been dancing for almost 2 years now. So, what a joy to wrap this up by doing so.
exactly. That would be very nice. Okay, so would you like to start the song? The salutations, I should say.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the mind born son of the creator Brahma.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches that there is really no creation.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who heard this truth directly from the lips of Lord Shiva on Kailasa.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains that consequently there is no creation, sustenance, or destruction.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who reveals that, therefore, there is no Brahma, Hari, or Hara.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, whose travels transcend the terrestrial.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, whose wisdom illumines obscure messages in Vedic passages.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who transcends the triad of worlds, earth, heaven, and the interspace.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who transcends the triad of bodies, gross, subtle, and causal.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who transcends the triad of states, waking, dream, and deep sleep.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who transcends the triads of qualities, sattva, rajas, and tamas.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, glowing with the triple stripes of ashes, who transcends all triads.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, with a majestic mane glistening with the smearing of pure white ash.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, with his body and crown bedecked with tears of the tears of Rudra eyes, the Rudrakshas.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, with a venerable visage suffused with a holy halo.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the honored host at the summit of sages.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the speaker sought after in the assembly of ascetics in the holy Himalayas.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who delivered the sermon on Mount Kedara.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who clearly declares the truth of non-duality.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, on the darshan of the likes of whom truth will surge and the ego will vanish.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the retriever of this treatise, which was cast on the ocean of milk by the creator Brahma.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who narrates how Dakshinamurti Shiva taught this knowledge for 1,000 years.
Om! Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who points out that Vinyaka elaborately taught this to his disciples for years.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who reveals that Hari graciously taught this to Brahma, the creator, for a long time in the ocean of milk.
Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who eulogizes this treatise as eliminating all sins committed in endless existences, if regularly read at least once each day with dedicated discipline.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who establishes the supremacy of the self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who sets out at length that the self and Brahman are one.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the master of instruction in the interpretation of the undivided essence.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the master for the mantra of the daily purificatory bath in the waters of Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the master of the mantra for the libation of water for Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the master of the mantra for the oblation of food for Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who establishes a format for the worship of the formless in the mind.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who gives an illuminating interpretation of the Mahavakyas of the Vedas.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who annotates the axiomatic aphorisms of the scriptures.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who is an axe for the tree of primal ignorance.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who expounds the Rig Vedic declaration, Prajnanam Brahma.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who points out how Brahman is pure, absolute knowledge.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains that the undivided meaning of the sentence is the one reality, the undivided knowledge.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains the identity, the reality that is absolute knowledge is Brahman. The reality that is Brahman is absolute knowledge.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who expatiates on the Sama Vedic declaration, Tat Vam Asi, that thou art, by the art of part comparison.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who brings out the identity of Brahman bereft of its Maya and the Jiva separated from its primal ignorance.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains the Atharva Vedic asseveration, I am Atma Brahma, this self is Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who compares the characteristics of the self in connection with the body and Brahman in connection with the universe.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains the Yajurvedic declaration, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, the crest jewel of a statement that is for incessant practice.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who gives a dissertation on Who am I? That for I, the word meaning is individual jiva, and for Brahman is Vara, the Lord.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who clarifies that thou art, as a statement that ordains, I am Brahman, as a statement of awareness, absolute knowledge is Brahman, as a statement for practice through reflection, and this self is Brahman, as a statement that confirms all this.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who confirms that all jivas, individuals with attachment, are of the nature of Brahman.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, for whom desireless action, as well as the desired results, are of the nature of Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who treads the path of negation to envision the existence of Brahman.
I lost where we are for some reason. Oh, there, I found
Okay. Yeah.
it. Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, for whom all the world and beings that exist because of conception in the mind are only that mind of the nature of conception.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, devoid of delusion.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, who compares the phenomenal world appearing on the infinite Shiva to waves, bubbles, and foam.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who clears the cobwebs in the caverns of a confused mind.
Mm. Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, who clarifies that the sacred thread is only an external symbol of caste without the study of the Vedas and scriptures.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who points out the need for a profound awareness of the substratum, the thread of the self that is the warp and woof of life, to truly be a Brahman.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, who clarifies that Brahman, which is knowledge, is formless, undivided, actionless, and all pervasive.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains that Brahman is self luminous, limitless, changeless, and attachmentless.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, defining the Jivan Mukta as one who is liberated while living, whoever has the certitude of his being the eternal supreme self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, describing the Jivan Mukta as one in a state of bliss, differenceless, aversionless, mind bereft of memories.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, revealing the realized sage as one who revels in the self, established all by himself in himself, without duality or non-duality, bathed in beatitude.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, defining the Videha Mukta as one liberated out of the body, of the nature of supreme peace, who has nothing, not even liberation.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, describing the Vidyahamukta remaining as pure consciousness, motionless, changeless, immeasurable.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, revealing the Videhamukta as of the nature of knowledge, without illusion, without name and form, without good or evil, without meditation or non meditation.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, extolling the Vidyahamukta as transcending everything, devoid of any thought of that, abiding as the supreme Brahman itself.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, whose words reverberate with the relentless reiteration of rigorous Advaita.
Om. Salutations to sage Ribhu, who keeps the non-dual flag flying aloft with unflagging zeal in his forays into the delusions of the dualistic field.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the sailor who spreads his non dual sails to stay afloat on the becalmed waters of the Brahman Ocean.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who survives the onslaught of the waves of doubts by staying submerged in the certitude of the self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the seer who teaches that the self alone is the seer, with nothing to see.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who confirms that consciousness is all.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who casts aside the concepts of certainty and uncertainty, determination and doubt, sankalpa and vikalpa.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who clarifies that the self is not the body.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches that the identification of the self with the body is the great misery.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who recognizes no cause and effect.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, whom desires do not defile.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, transcending joy and grief.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches that to be liberated is a natural state.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who has no goals to reach.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the goalless visionary who is egoless.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches that there is no guru or disciple.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who calmly poses the riddle of the elephant and the rider.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the preacher of priceless peace.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the teacher who turns the devotees and the world to the quest of calm.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who confers the composure of abidance in the self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the composer of 64 analogies of the non existent to destroy the myth of the manifest world.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, comparing the unreality of the world to the son of a barren woman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, comparing the unreality of the world to the waters of a mirage.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, comparing the unreality of the world to the blue of the sky.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, comparing the unreality of the world to the milk that had been earlier squeezed out of a cow, flowing back into the teats.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, comparing the unreality of the world to a mad elephant being killed by the illusory horns of a hare.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who points out that the serpent superimposed on the substratum of a rope is only a rope.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches that there are no examples or similes.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who explains that there is nothing internal or external.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, points out that there is no duality or individuality.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who illumines the reality that all is illusory, the here and the hereafter, bondage, liberation, and happiness.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who denies the reality of the Puranas, legendary lore, and the Itihasas, epics of gods and demons and the battles between them.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who rules out the Gotra, lineage from a sage, and Sutra, the codes of religious observances for followers of different sages.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who clarifies that senses and sensations, eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, skin and touch are all illusory.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who affirms that penance and prayers, pilgrimages and holy waters are illusory.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who teaches the need for sravana, listening, manana, reflection, nididhyasana, profound continuous meditation, for the seeker of the self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who discusses the consequences of karma, prescribed action, confining one to the wheel of birth and death.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who points out that where there is a wheel, there is a way to escape therefrom also.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who wields the sword of knowledge to cut the Gordian knot of the heart, said to be the bond of the body and the self.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the preceptor of pupil Nadaga, professing the tenets of the Pasupata order.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who raised Nadaga to the exalted state of becoming Brahman of the nature of knowledge alone.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, who joyously listened to the realized Nadaga describing how he had become Brahman.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the guru who guides a society of spiritual aspirants to evolve into a society of abidance in truth.
Om. Salutations to Sage Ribhu, the realized Rishi, who reveals the rare glory of eternal truth, consciousness, bliss. have to stop the music now. Else I can't lower down anymore. So that was wonderful.
Well done.
It was like a kind of a summary, wasn't it? It was like a summary of what all the chapters have been about. It's like praise him for saying this and teaching us that and showing us this and showing us that.
Can I mansplain for a moment?
Yeah.
I think maybe line 80 or 81 was talking about the elephant and the rider.
Mm.
And there's a mention of Ribhu elsewhere in the Vedas from the introduction, where I think he meets a king and he's in disguise, but he was maybe the king's teacher in a former life or something. They had a prior relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And through discussing what is above and what is below, and who am I and who are
Mm-hmm.
you, and whether or not there's any difference, the
Mm-hmm.
king comes to realize that this man in disguise is actually his guru.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a beautiful summary of that part of the
Mm.
Vedas in the introduction here in this volume. So I thought
Okay.
I'd just mention it for the record.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. My favorite reminders from those salutations were like, I love when I hear, that really that none of this is here.
Mm,
Like there was nothing has ever been created. All the epics, so that includes this. That includes Ribhu. Ribhu has never existed. The Ribhu Gita has never existed. A listener has never existed. Nothing, nothing, nothing. There's
mm.
no sense of sound and no ears to hear them with. All of that. No, none of the senses. I love that. But then I also love the kind of counteractive part of that says, like, for the spiritual seeker, it's very important to listen. And somehow they're both true. And I feel that that's very important because I think sometimes we can overlook the world. We can overlook the world because we come to that idea. Mostly it's an idea. We come to the idea that it's not true or it's not really here. And it's not even an idea because we can see it and I think we can know it and experience it and even feel the truth of it in our heart, but then I think we can then use it as an idea, whereas in the moment it might not be very, very apparent. So we're using it to kind of dismiss the world, where in that moment the world doesn't need to be dismissed. Actually,
Mm.
maybe the person in front of us really needs to be listened to, or something, like that. So I love how he kind of shared both of them. And it's good because you can't get stuck with anything that you can't get stuck with one thing, like, oh yeah, no, it's very important to listen and we do have the sense of listening. It's like, no, there's no such thing as listening. There's not even such thing as ears. And it's like they're kind of both true, both not true. So then you can't, like that. I think that you say that sometimes you can't grasp onto anything.
Mm.
And I think that's a good place for a teaching to bring you to, is when you can't grasp onto anything or hold onto anything or think you know anything or think you understand anything. I think any teaching that does that is worthy.
I'm just so grateful for the love and devotion that's bubbling up all the time now from thinking about our sessions. It's really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
And to underline what you just said, Ribu and Nadaga, they've become these characters have become like
Mm.
brothers. But
Yeah.
in truth, it's clear that there's no Ribu, no Nadaga.
Yeah. I think we can know that and feel it and experience that truth. And it adds a whole new dimension you could say.
Mm,
But yeah, I don't. I think we can totally then enjoy all the seemingness so much more in a way, because it's not really here, like that deep in your being. So therefore, you can enjoy the seeming differences, or you can enjoy all of that
mm,
so much more. Whereas if
mm,
you think it's really here and like you think so much that there's cause and effect and it's going to be so important, like if I do this, then it's going to have this effect, or that person did that and has that effect, and all of that, it's like it makes everything so much more heavy, whereas it's so much, yeah, it's just like easier to enjoy. There are some different words come sometimes, like it's like it doesn't matter so much, but somehow it can't be that. I don't think it doesn't matter. Like I feel like everything matters, even if it's not real. It still matters because I don't know why. Because to say it doesn't matter doesn't feel right. That's it. But I feel like that's a good way. Like you can say like that, like just that you can enjoy it all the more and be lighter about everything, both seemingly good and seemingly bad. And maybe that's like a kind of a growing thing, you know, a growing depth or something that can we can deepen into as the seeming time goes by. Hmm. Like that word seeming. Seems to be. It seems to be, yet it is not. It seems to be not. Or is it? So that was a pleasant journey of sharing the Song of Ribhu with you. And
mm.
now I do know that I have read it from cover to cover, because I might have already read it from cover to cover, but I kind of tend to dip in and out of books like this. Like the way I usually have them is I might start and I'll be like, yeah, I'm going to read it from cover to cover. And I'll read like 7 chapters and then I won't read it again for ages. Then I might pick it up and just open it on chapter 23. And then I might read 3 or 4 chapters and then I might pick it up and read a different chapter. So I don't know if I've ever read it like all the way through consecutively. I think I may have read every chapter before, or maybe not even. So it's nice to at least know I'm not
Mm.
missing something very, very important. All of that information that is supposed to get rid of all information has gone in there. So that's encouraging.
I recorded a few pieces. I know I shared some with you, but it was only just a little while ago that I played some back and, listened very deeply, and it was
Mm,
really beautiful. Like, oh,
yeah.
maybe more of this is in order to
Mm,
continue to sort of drink in
yeah.
the meaning a little bit.
Mm.
And although, we've only met each other on Zoom, I'm going to assume that you have a torso and legs.
I do.
And and
This
it,
no, I have a hand anyway. It's like, yeah, this is my torso. Oh no, that's only a hand. I might not.
well, if you do have legs, at the
Okay.
end of those legs are feet, and those are the feet of grace. And it's been a real pleasure to have been introduced to you and this grace once again.
Yeah. Mm.
So my intention is to join your regular silent sitting. I know you put it out on Facebook, so
Oh yeah.
what a perfect invitation. We're going to be in a very close time zone. We're going to be like an hour away
Yeah. We're actually
after
the
the
same time
30th.
zone.
Is it
Portugal is
so?
the same. Yeah,
Okay.
it's actually the same.
We will be in Lagos on the 31st of March.
Wow. Wonderful.
Yeah, yeah, very, very soon. We're saying our goodbyes and both separating from work and
Living the free life. I actually had a dream the other day and you were in it and your wife was in it. I don't know if I had two dreams or if it was one dream. But at one point I was talking to you on the computer and then your wife walked by or something. And then she was like, then she was going to be working on on this. Like she was writing some transcripts or something
ah,
for like these videos or something like that. And then another part of the dream then was you were all in my house, which wasn't my house. I had an amazing, amazing house in the dream,
yeah.
which I don't have. But like, so I had this amazing house, and like you were visiting with your wife and also your daughters, and maybe your daughters like husbands or partners or something. There were so many of you, and then I don't know, you were just there, and then you all went to sleep really early outside in the garden in a row. I don't know. Well, that was
What
all.
what a peaceful scene.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, great.
It's like they're all gone to bed, and it was only like about 6 or half 6 in the day.
Hmm.
That would be like the time difference thing, maybe. I don't
Yeah,
know. Or something. No, I don't know.
your
Something
dream members were suffering some jet lag.
weird. Or something like that, yeah. So yeah, it doesn't make sense, but that was the first time that you appeared in my dream
Uh-huh.
that I can recall.
Well, you appear in my heart all the time, so it's
Yes,
it's really really
you
beautiful.
appear in mine, like right now.
That's great. Mm,
So this is the end of an era.
indeed.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to anybody who's been listening. There are a few people out there who listen in. So even though we don't see you, we love you. And we hope that you've enjoyed listening to us ramble on.
Indeed, this is for all times and all people.
Yes. So thank you so much.
Mm.
So are you going to join me on podcast sometime when you're in
Um,
America, or do you want to wait till you're in Portugal?
as you like. Happy to do something next week or the week after.
Yeah, because we have this time and we're familiar with using this time. Maybe that'd be
Ve-
good on Saturday.
Very happy to do that. Um,
Mm,
and happy to check with you towards the end of next week to see if next Saturday will work.
sure, let's check in then.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, such a pleasure to stay connected.
Yes. Mm, love you.
Love you too.
Bye.
Bye bye.